Welcome to another episode of The Unseen Paranormal, where some of the scariest things are unseen. I'm your host, Eric Freeman. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Today I actually have in studio with me, Lee and Paula from the Medics for Paranormal. They are, of course, our resident paranormal team here at the Unseen Paranormal Podcast. And also, they have been nice enough to have me along a few times as a guest investigator, so we have a lot of fun together. How are y'all doing today?
Oh, we're doing great.
Doing good. Hello.
So, I wanted to have y'all on today because we did an awesome event at the Thomas House Hotel in Red Bull Springs, Tennessee. If y'all have never heard of the Thomas House, amazing place, amazing people that own it. They're so sweet. And also, CNN called it the second most haunted place in the United States. So we had some good activities, so we're going to talk about that today and talk about some upcoming stuff that we have going on. The event we did it was a private event that we did for first responders, so we were all medics, which was a lot of fun because we get together and tell stories.
And we're all crazy.
Yeah, pretty much. So what are y'all thoughts on the investigation that we did at Thomas House?
Well, the reason that we did it initially is, like you said, for first responders. 2020 was a hell of a year for everybody, and we just wanted to kind of just turn the tides and try to start out 21 as a much better year. So doing something special for the first responders that we work with on a daily basis, just kind of sharing that with our work family, working with the living and the dead, that's what we call it. It was really a unique experience, and that was the first time you'd been to Thomas House, wasn't it?
It was. I have never experienced that before, and it was an amazing place.
Yeah, when Lee mentioned to me, because we were trying to think of how we were going to have a group hunt, and he said, how about a first responder? I thought, you know what, that's a really good idea. I said, because, those people work hard for us. We're first responders, and they really enjoyed it. Like, it was a great hunt. They had a great time. Yeah,
we had a few who had never been on an investigation before, and so they were kind of scared. They even kind of voiced that, and then halfway through the night, they're like, this is awesome. It's nothing like on TV, and that's what people don't get. And I'm getting that with some of the stuff that I put up, too, about events that we're doing. The one coming up, y'all have probably heard the ad I've run on the show for Rosemont.
Right.
I had somebody comment on one of the ads today that, she would be too scared to do it. And I commented, like, don't believe what you see on TV. It's all hype.
Right.
And that's what people don't understand. Like, if you've seen the Thomas House, it's been on Ghost Hunters, and everybody with TV's been there, because when CNN called it the second most haunted place, I think it got a lot of recognition. But I just told them, like, it's all hyped up. And so if you've seen the Thomas House on there, it's all hype. The place is amazing.
Yeah.
And the energy there is really mellow, and it's a nice energy. It's not
a horrible feeling.
No.
I have people that I work with too that want to go, and they're like, oh, I'm too scared, but I'd like to go to one of the prisons. I'm like, really? I mean, if you want to go to a prison, come to Thomas House.
Yeah.
They have great hospitality. They serve you dinner. They serve you breakfast. Nice. You have your own room, your own shower. It's like a giant bed and breakfast.
Or as they call it, the dead and breakfast.
Right, the dead and breakfast. And there just happens to be spirits that stay there, but they're not bad spirits.
Right. And so the Thomas House, a little history on the Thomas House, is it's in a place called Red Bull Springs, Tennessee. And that area built up with, there's two other hotels there as well, built up back in the early 1900s because of the Red Bull Springs. They thought it was a healing mineral spring, so they built these three hotels. They're all three still standing. There's the Thomas House, there's the Donahoe, and I forget the name of the other.
Get the name of that third one as well.
I do too. It's a smaller one. The Donahoe is like 3 times as big as the Thomas House. Thomas House is pretty big. I think they got 15 rooms that they rent out. They got a huge dining room, and the people that own it actually live at the Thomas House. So one brother and the mother live on one side. They've turned into their private living arrangement, and then the other brother that owns it, him and his wife and their grandkids live on the other side.
Correct.
They've turned it. Me and Paula got to go over there, and they turned it into a really nice 2-story apartment. And so, but the Thomas House has a long history of lots of different things. People dying there. There's lots of stories. It was originally built by the Cloyd brothers and was called the Cloyd Hotel. And like I said, it was people came there because it was healing mineral springs. And then they've had a few fires. There was a fire in, was it the 20s?
There was one fire in it was 1925, I believe it was, or 1927. And then they built it back with the red brick foundation that it's on now 2 years later. And that was a devastating fire. They said it leveled the place.
Yeah, so they rebuilt it the way it looks now. But then in the 90s, the current owners, 97.
And not in the mid-90s, one of the wings had burnt, and it was contained to one wing of the hotel. But again, that they've rebuilt that, so they're keeping the history of it alive, as well as everything that they have. They're very big on preservation, which is amazing.
What was interesting to me is, I didn't know this, I think maybe you found out, is all of the furniture and decorations in that house were collected from David's family.
Yeah.
And they decorated the whole place off of stuff they've collected, which is, if you haven't been there, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you could go there 10 times and still see new stuff.
Yes. I mean, the rooms that have been donated, like the Scarlet, what is it, the Gone with the Wind room?
Yeah.
The Santa room, the doll room. I mean, it's amazing how much stuff is there. And I'm going to comment on this because it still baffles me. The entire place is clean all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know how. If you go in there and rub your finger anywhere, and I was telling my mom the other day, I think it's something, maybe it's me being superstitious, but that place, how does it stay so clean?
Yeah, because there's lots of old furniture and wood
everywhere
that attracts dust, and
Lots
there's
of
no
bric-a-brac
dust.
There's never any
knickknacks
dust.
And old furniture and so many rooms, so many nooks and crannies.
I have
Also, all the
literally run my finger over everything.
Yeah.
There's never any dust.
Also, all the mirrors in there are always clean.
Yes.
And I guess nobody really messes with the mirrors, but
dust, I get more dust in my home.
Yeah. Well, I
mean,
have 8 dogs, so there's lots of dust.
Well, some of the mirrors in there I find questionable, but not because of the dust, which I'm sure we'll talk about here in a little bit.
Yeah.
Right, but it's always clean, guys. It's always clean.
But they are always so good to us every time that we go up there. They actually had the hotel closed, and they opened it up just for our investigation.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. Miss Evelyn, she's like the matriarch of their family. Super, super nice woman. And I'm going to tell you a little story that she told us here in a little bit. So.
And they're going on, the owners that own it now, they are going on their 29th year of owning the place. And they're kind of the ones that have opened it up to the ghost investigations because they've all had experiences there. And David, who kind of does the day-to-day stuff, and he's the main cook there as well.
Amazing chef.
Yeah. And the awesome thing is, I just want to say this before we get into the ghost part of it. The awesome thing is, for the $77 to rent a room for the night, you have the run of the place to investigate all you want. And they feed you dinner and breakfast, like good Southern style home cooking. We had fried chicken and all the fixing from scratch, fried chicken and all the fixings. They have a huge dining room because they also do theater there. They have a bunch of different shows that run throughout the year and for the local community.
Weddings and everything. They had just had a Gothic wedding right before we got there, and they still had the decorations for that, and that was something to see, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, and this place from the outside, my first impression when we got there was it's smaller than when I remembered on TV, but then when you get inside, the place is massive.
It just keeps going and going.
Yeah, and there's more rooms than there were originally more rooms than what they rent out now. They have 15 rooms they rent out now, but there originally was like 50 rooms, I think, something like that. And they're still numbered the same as they used to be.
Yeah.
Because I stayed in room 38, and y'all are across the hall in
37. Yeah.
37, yeah. So, this place is huge and long history. And so some of the stories, I know one of the stories that I remember is outside on the top porch, there was a man who was cheating with a woman, and her husband caught them at the Thomas house. And they were arguing out on the top porch out front, and the husband shot the lover
in the head, and he fell over
the railing and died on basically the front entrance below on the sidewalk.
Yeah, that's always been one of the more fascinating stories that I had heard, actually. And we get a lot of activity out on the porch, which we'll talk about as well. But just the stories, they just never end. My favorite is the one that Miss Evelyn told. So whenever they moved into, I'm going to tell this on Miss Evelyn's behalf, but when they first moved into their residence, she had a king-size bed, and this lady, she's in her 80s, and she does great for her age. She's amazing. You would not guess her to be her age.
She is.
So anyway, she didn't have a whole lot of room, so they took it down one of the walls to kind of widen her room because they got her an assist lift reclining chair. So she said she was sitting in that chair, and she noticed somebody walk by her. Well, she didn't think nothing about it, and all of a sudden somebody else walked by her, and it always happened at the same time every night. So she didn't think nothing about it the first night or the second night. Well, she said one night this guy came walking by her, stopped, turned, and looked at her, and it hit her right then. She's like, oh my God, I'm sitting in the hallway. What was the hallway, it's now part of my room, but that's where all these people are coming from because it happens at the same time every night. But to hear her tell that story, it's incredible.
She also said that she started sketching them, and she had like 20 different sketches or something of different entities that she saw walk through
which
there.
I would love to see.
Oh,
yeah,
I would too.
Yeah,
I'll have to ask her. Yeah, that'd be interesting to look at.
Yeah, she was telling us a lot of stories that she had. But David, what I was saying is, he's not an investigator, and he refuses to investigate. He's only done it once. He had somebody talk him into it once, and but he said he experiences things anyway. And me and Lee were checking in and getting our room keys, and Lee asked for Sarah's room, and we'll talk about Sarah's room. That's room 37. And I'm like, well, just give me one, room next door across the hall, whatever. And so he handed me the key to room 38, and he's like, well, I'm not an investigator, but that's the room that I have the most experiences in when I'm cleaning and stuff. I'm like, well, that's great.
Yeah, and he said he hadn't been again after that. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is an amazing place. The hospitality is great. The level of activities off the charts as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, it didn't disappoint. Another story about a spirit that still roams there is the spirit of a cook who apparently haunts the room above the kitchen. And every time I went in the kitchen, it's a restaurant style kitchen that has a swinging door. And every time I went in there by myself, I felt like I was being watched. And I had other people that were in our group comment.
A lot of people, everybody that went said the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you go in that kitchen, it's definitely a kind of feeling. You look around, definitely.
That feeling's definitely not isolated there, because I felt that in the dining room as well.
Yeah.
That dining room. If you want to see a camera, I don't know.
There's
some anomalies that have happened in that dining room.
Yeah.
With multiple cameras, cell phone cameras, still cameras, you name it.
Yeah, and so y'all have been a few times, and one of the pictures that you caught, and I found this interesting because I'm going to relate it to the experience that we had when I was with y'all. Lee had taken multiple pictures, which we recommend taking multiple pictures in the row of the same thing because you'll catch anomalies sometimes. And it was taking a picture at dinner time of David, the owner, one of the owners, and there's like this grayed out. It almost looks like his face changes, but his face is grayed out. And then when I was there with y'all, we took a picture of Paula and another member of the group.
They were cheating, getting him.
We were trying to steal we weren't stealing. We were eating
cobbler.
the peach cobbler.
Peach cobbler, yeah. In that same corner, there was some grayed out part of the picture.
My face.
Yeah.
If you look at the side of my face, I have that same, it's almost, I want to say like a monster look.
But what's amazing about it, though, is it's only the person that is grayed out. Everything around the person, you can follow the line of the person around their shoulder.
My hand is grayed out, and almost Chad would have been grayed out if he got closer. And
it's not anything that we could find in the room.
No.
Because it wasn't the same angle as where David was. It's the same corner.
Same camera.
Right, nor the same camera. It's in the same corner. And then also, with my cell phone camera, it looks like I got a picture. Lee and Paula were doing a presentation for our group about the history of Thomas House and talking about the different entities and stuff. And so they're up on the stage. And I took a picture of my cell phone, and it looked like somebody took in like an editing program and just erased Lee's face.
Yeah.
And
it's like he has a giant face-colored mask on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really weird picture anomalies in there. And the fact that it's multiple cameras and it's happened on multiple visits
in the same room
is interesting. And of course, you can't ever say that it's definitely something paranormal because we can't prove it. But it's interesting that it's even with two different cameras, we got the grayed out look, and then also the whole. And at first, I thought it was motion blur, but you can still. You can see the bill of your hat. You can read your hat. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you look at the picture of David's face and the side of my face, it is identical.
Yeah.
What happened to our faces.
And David is sitting down. You're standing up in a different part of the corner, and it's a totally different camera. And so, yeah. And I take lots of cell phone pictures. And if anybody's ever had any, please message me if you've ever had your cell phone camera or digital camera, do some sort of grayed out weird stuff. But then I had it happen. There's a mirror up on the second floor in the hallway that David was telling us the next morning that you could take pictures in and possibly get a face. And he had some school kids not too long ago that were there during the day that they got a face in the mirror. So I went up there and took, 10 pictures in a row in this mirror. And another gray anomaly showed up in a chair
we saw
that you can see to the right of the mirror. and it just, the first few pictures is not there, and then it just kind of grows.
Mm-hmm.
And it's during the day, I took the pictures all in a row, and so I can't explain that either.
And the
like,
last
why
picture,
would it
it's
gray
gone.
that out? Yeah, and the last picture is gone.
Yeah, definitely.
And the
saw
first
it.
couple of pictures is not there.
Yeah.
So
interesting camera anomalies for sure.
talking about that same hallway, I know where you took that picture. In the same hallway, during our initial investigation, we were all within that hallway, and I told everybody, I said, like what you were saying, take 3 pictures, 1, 2, and 3, and you very well could catch different anomalies. Well, we had a flight paramedic that joined our group. His name was Chad Robb. He was actually taking a picture of another girl in the group, Kelly. And in the picture, it's really a great picture, but you can see Kelly sitting there. She's holding her little ghost meter, which was going off, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit as well.
Yeah.
So, and across from her, you saw this other one, and he had this face on him, and it was just, it looked like he was scared, but he wasn't. And it was a really good picture, but when he gave me that picture, I started increasing, blowing that picture up just to kind of see what's in the background behind them. And on the other side of them is a big round mirror on an old dresser. You can clearly see a figure of a woman standing in that mirror that was not in the hallway with us. So the more you blow it up, the more defined that you can see. She had almost like a certain kind of hairdo or like a hairnet or something on her head.
Yeah.
But to me, it was clearly a woman. So then we took that picture and we lightened it up a little bit. We didn't alter the picture at all. We just kind of put a little more light in it. And what's incredible, you can actually see a figure in the doorway watching our group with that figure's reflection in the mirror. I'm like you. I can't call it anything paranormal, but I'm definitely not saying that was nothing.
Yeah. Because Lee commented, was like, oh my God, look at when I lighten it up. And you could definitely see, if it wasn't for that, I call it the bouffant hairdo, where it's got like 2, you could see that on the figure standing on the wall. It is obviously watching them. And like you said, those meters that we have never go off. Literally,
right.
I've never had them ghost meters go off. My partner on the ambulance I work with, Barry, he was holding one of them and it was going off. He was sitting right across from where that figure was.
And I even told Barry, turn that thing off. It's driving me crazy. I took it out when I got home.
Yeah. To make sure that it wasn't malfunctioning.
I thought they were both malfunctioning. Like, no, they can't both
We tried it
malfunction.
on a recent investigation, never could get it to go off like that.
We can never get those to go off. I don't even use them because they don't go off.
Well, and I broke out the Mel meter, which is a little more sensitive and a little more expensive piece of equipment, because those little ghost meters are just cheap. And so you think, okay, well, this is just, because it's a little cheap piece of equipment. But I broke out the Mel meter and couldn't find any high EMF that would explain for that ghost meter to go off. But speaking of that picture, another thing that lends a little credence to me that it's actual figure, not some sort of shadow or something from one of us, is because there's a fire extinguisher hanging on the wall, and it blacks out the fire extinguisher.
Yes, it does.
In the pictures before and after it, you can see the fire extinguisher.
Mm-hmm.
But in that one picture, it's blacking out and blocking the stuff on the wall behind it. And this is right, like 2 feet from here, the hallway takes a right and goes back to the stairs and stuff, and the Gone with the Wind room and all that. And so this is at the end of the hallway. It's like somebody kind of walked around the corner and is just standing there watching us, because most of us are at the other end of the hallway.
Right.
And this is upstairs, and we called it the dark hallway because it's pitch black in there at night. But there's nothing evil there. There's a story of that hallway that I've heard about a woman that people have captured in that hallway. And she would be in like period dress of like early 1900s.
And this
dress,
was definitely a prominent figure in period dress, hair, and everything.
Yeah.
No
doubt. You'll remember some of the questioning that we had with the equipment that we were using indicated that if there was anything there, that it was a female.
Yeah.
Because she was responding to that.
Yeah.
She was definitely standing right there next to them, and they kept saying they felt coldness. And I was down the end of the hall. I felt nothing cold. They were in those chairs. And
Yeah, and we're still going through the evidence because, of course, it's a lot because we had so many recorders and cameras and all that stuff. But
we're checking the evidence of the people that were there, the group that was there as well.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, this guy named Chad Robb, he never been on a ghost hunt in his life. And the fact that he caught that figure, it was really an incredible experience because, I mean, it shows that anybody can capture. I told him, I said, good job. He said, well, I didn't know. I was taking a picture of Kelly.
Yeah, so that evidence, whenever we get it all collated, because I'm still going through my voice recorder because I had so many hours that I recorded on it and pictures, and I've got a film camera that I got to send off. Apparently, nobody does 1 hour photo anymore.
No.
It'll be 2 weeks
what's
or so.
that?
Yeah. So
You're
But
asking for a
that'll
payphone,
be
Eric.
on medics, the number 4, paranormal.com, with all their other evidence from other investigations.
I'm
And
working
then,
on it, getting it together and getting it on there.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
you said, I mean, it's a lot. But just the amount of evidence is incredible. The grayed out pictures are going to be on there as well. Some EVPs that we have captured, which you captured some, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So
Some interesting ones. I'll put some of that stuff up on the in the Unseen Paranormal Podcast Lounge. Some of the pictures that we're talking about, I can throw up there because we already have those.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's more evidence that we'll catch. But and then it was so that was just the beginning of the night, because that was when we were all together as one big group. And then there were 10 of us?
there was 9 of us total.
9 of us. So then we split off into 2 smaller groups, and we had some interesting things happen separately in the smaller groups as well. I know we were at the end of that dark hallway where we caught the shadow figure in the photo we were just talking about, and there's a sitting room at the very last room on the left down the hallway, and we got a lot of activity in there.
That room it's just, I don't know, something about the just presence in that room. It's nothing bad, but you can definitely get the feeling. You definitely know if there's someone else in there besides you.
Yeah, and there was multiple comments from the guests that were with us about that.
And I love those comments. I really do, because I mean, I love sitting back and just seeing what they're feeling, what they're experiencing.
Yeah, and you're talking about people who don't investigate. They never have investigated. Just they came along for their first experience. So to have them commenting,
and they're all coming back.
But to have them comment, that the energy has changed at the same time we're feeling it, and that you're seeing it, that I'm seeing it on the millimeter, and that type stuff is pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's just different equipment's just validating the one before. 2 of the people that were on the hunt is Misty and Barry. Barry's actually my partner on the ambulance full time. Their residence was actually the first house that me and Paula investigated together as medics for paranormal. So when they moved into their house, they had found out, and I know I'm running off on a tangent just for a second, but they found out after they moved in that there was a suicide by a gunshot in their master bedroom. They did not know it before they had moved into this house. So they asked us to come down. Well, anyway, so my point is, both of them are believers, but when we got them up to the Thomas house, that belief just kind of skyrocketed. Yeah. So my partner, Barry, I do want to tell off on him a little bit. I've never, I don't know how to say this, but I'm going to say it. So me and Paula were standing in the dining room, and we heard this god-awful noise coming down the stairs, and it sounded like somebody was rolling down the stairs.
Barry.
And all of a sudden, Barry comes running around the corner. I said, "What is wrong with you?" He said, "Something was chasing me." I said, "What?" So he went upstairs to get something out of their room. He had the little ghost meter, the one that never goes off.
And he was down the room at the end.
Yeah, he was at the end of what he called the shining hallway. That's how he describes it, because it's never ending. So he's walking back, and he's by himself, and he said his little meter starts going off. He said he stops, and it starts going off a little bit faster. He turns around, and there's nobody there, of course. And he said he starts walking. He said he just noticed that he was walking faster, and he just felt somebody coming up behind him. And he said he got to the top of the stairs, which is a big, just grand staircase. He said, "Oh, to hell with it." And he just come charging down the stairs. So he come charging around that corner, and he did. He looked like, I don't know how else to say this. So he looked like he'd seen a ghost. So he was that pale and that white. But that's the kind of validation that I enjoy. I tell people, I said, trust your body, trust your senses.
I definitely think the spirits were with Barry and Kelly that night.
Yeah, they were definitely attracted to them too. It was a lot of personal experiences. Like I said, we're still going through the actual evidence, but a lot of personal experiences that night. Mm-hmm. There was an interesting experience that Paula had one time when y'all went up there and investigated before. Was it the second time?
Yeah, second time.
So this is just interesting because I've never known anybody or heard like firsthand account of somebody having a time slip is the only thing I can call it.
Time slip.
I don't know what
interdimensional, whatever
something
you want to
interesting. So the ladies' bathroom has stories anyway of paranormal activity. People have experienced things in the ladies' bathrooms, and it used to be a room, and now it's a men's and women's bathroom at the bottom of the stairs.
And the last lady that stayed in that room passed away in that room. She came to there to try to get healed by the mineral waters, and she passed. So
the second time that y'all went to the Thomas house, you had an interesting time slip experience. So just tell us about what happened with that.
Yeah, sure. So we were there. There was 4 of us there, and then there was another couple and their son there. So we let them go ahead and join in our investigation. If I'm not mistaken, I had left the guys upstairs on the balcony in Sarah's room. And this lady and I can't recall her name, went out to do something. I don't know what we were doing. I can't really remember, but she said, I'm going up to my room to get something to drink. And I said, okay, I'm going to use the restroom. We broke apart. I went into the restroom. I peed, got up, washed my hands, did the whole 9 yards. I walked out, and I couldn't find her. And I kept calling her name. I couldn't find her. Went up to her room. She wasn't in her room. Nobody was in Sarah's room. When I came back down the stairs, I thought maybe on the front porch. And they weren't on the front porch. So at that point, I thought, where in the hell is everybody? So I thought maybe they were pulling a prank on me because medics pull pranks, and they probably pull one on me. So I text Lee. I called Lee, and I went outside to do it because I had no service inside. Text Lee, called Lee, text him, got his voicemail. I started getting kind of worried, thinking, what in the hell's going on? So I went back inside, and I kind of got panicky, and I was looking around. I even went down the dark hallway by myself. Nothing. I couldn't find anybody. I went out to the front porch, and I started getting this, like, weird, like, you know, when you start getting nervous, you kind of get dizzy, and I thought, what the hell's going on with me? So I went outside with my keys, thinking, I'm just going to go sit in my car. You know, my truck was out there, so I went out there, and I thought, well, I'll go across the street, because we were actually investigating the church across the street. At that time, it was still open. Went all the way across the street, locked, shut, nothing. I come back, I look up on the balcony, no one's there. I'm like, what in the hell is going on? I come back inside, and I thought, you know what, I'm going back in the bathroom. So I went back into that bathroom, and I had to pee by this time because I was so nervous. Went in the bathroom, peed again. I came out, and I'm like, if they're not here, I'm getting in my car, and I'm leaving. Because I was kind of freaked out by this point, and I had run over that whole place looking for them. I came out of the bathroom, and I listened, and I could hear them talking, and they were up in Sarah's room. And I came upstairs, and I'm like, what the hell? What y'all trying to play a joke on me? I was pissed.
She was ranting and raving. I'm like, Paula, calm down. What is going on?
They're like, maybe you fell asleep somewhere. I'm like, no, I left this lady right here. And we split. Bathroom, she went up to her room. When I came out, she was gone. And I literally thought they played a joke. So it was a very weird experience.
She was telling me that she called.
And you never got any of that.
And I checked my phone, and I showed her. I said, I have nothing.
And I had the text messages on
She showed me where they were timestamped where she did.
And they were sent, but you never got them.
Right, exactly. And I have service.
Yo, I had plenty of service when we were there. Like, I didn't have any problems with my phone.
Yeah, and it was a weird experience, so I chalk it up to I don't know.
Yeah, it's just interesting. But I find it interesting that the evidence of you texting Lee and he never got them while you're in this time slip, air quotes. That's the only thing I know how to. I
even called my boyfriend Toby outside, and I was like, "Hey," I said, "This is really weird." That he goes, "They're probably playing a joke on you. Just go back inside and find them." I'm like, "No, I'm standing outside. This is weird. I think I'm gonna leave." He's like, your anxiety's getting high. He said, just go inside.
And what was weird, she said everything, like our possessions and everything that we had brought, everything was there.
Yeah, everything was there.
We were not.
They weren't there. They were nowhere.
There's a theory that's going around now that I find interesting, and Nick Groff on his new show is kind of exploring this, of that some of the time slips, what it is, you're slipping into a time when you were there, but at a different time. Does that make sense? So the reason he started exploring this is because a few years ago, he went to I don't remember what location it was, but he went to a location and he got his name said quite a few times on the spirit box. He started thinking maybe that is me from a time I had been there before, saying my name's Nick, and now when I come back, for whatever reason, it's imprinted on the environment of the energy when he was there before, and it's actually him talking to himself through the spirit box.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and so he went back there again to see if he got anything else. And so he thinks that, so maybe it's because it happened the second time y'all were there, maybe that same thing or something, you know what I'm saying, something similar, like y'all's equipment was there, but you were freaked out, so maybe the equipment wasn't exactly like y'all had it the second time you were there. Like when you had the time slip, maybe you slipped back to when you were there the first time. I mean, it's just, that's a new theory that's being tested out, which I find interesting. And Nick Groff, like I said, has some evidence with the spirit box, and I found that interesting that he had been there before, so he went, he had been there a couple times before, and so he thinks that maybe he
That is a really
He's
cool
talking to
theory. I like
himself,
that.
and
through the spirit box.
And when I was in that, whatever you want to call time slip, I almost kept feeling like a deja vu. It was the weirdest feeling. I'm like, what the hell's going on with me? Like, that's why I called Toby to make sure I could get a hold of him, and I got a hold of him, but I couldn't get a hold of Lee.
Yeah, it's interesting. And then the fact that you have the text messages and the missed calls on your phone that you can show, but then they were never received.
And I called and talked to Toby, but not Lee.
Right.
And I was yelling their names.
Right.
I wasn't quiet. You know me. You can hear me a mile away. I was calling them.
But, the fact that she was able to call Toby, I mean, was she in the time slip or were we?
Right,
I mean,
right. That's an interesting point.
Right.
Yeah.
What really happened?
Right. Maybe y'all were in the time slip, and that's why your phone never received anything.
And I was left in reality, and nobody was there. Yeah. Very strange. But it was cool. I mean, now that, I never thought nothing about it when it happened.
Right.
She was definitely shaken up. I know she was, like I said, ranting and raving, and she's going to whip me. But
and we've talked about Sarah's room. And Sarah's room is notorious for a child spirit. And there's actually a crib in there full of baby dolls and toys. And y'all brought some baby dolls and brought some balls for us as trigger objects to use.
Yeah, we brought a couple of baby dolls the second time, maybe, or no, maybe it's the first time.
First time we brought dolls.
We brought Sarah 2 baby dolls. We went down to the dollar store and we just got 2 baby dolls. They were twins, and we had them setting up on the bed around our equipment. And that equipment, I mean, it's man-made equipment. It's electrical and everything. But, whenever you get a lot of equipment going off surrounding one particular object, I'm starting to think there's something there. I've got this one video. I mean, I know how you feel about light orbs, but there's one to me that a video that we captured. It's also on our Facebook page and our web page as well. That you can just see the REM pods going off with the baby dolls. I said, Sarah, do you still? Oh, this is also the same one. I said, Sarah, do you still like the baby dolls? And we got a Class A EVP that says, oh yeah. It was in a whisper, but I mean, we could not hear it live. But we went back and heard it.
I think we played that on the last show you were on last year.
I think we did.
Yeah.
I think you're right. So anyway, we had the REM pod going off, and whenever the REM pod stopped going off, this really bright ball of light came out of the baby dolls, and it actually came toward me and went over my left shoulder. And we never got no more response through any of the equipment after that. That's one of the most compelling orb videos I've got.
And that EVP, just me add, we thought, oh, it's a girl, it couldn't be her. But then we validated that David and his mother said she was about 16. So that would explain the voice sounding like a mature woman and not a little girl.
And the night that I was there with y'all, we had some interesting things happen in the hallway with a ball that I'm pretty sure we got on video.
Yes, we did. We got some.
And you can, if it hadn't happened 3 or 4 times in a row, I would kind of just toss it to the building is unlevel, which it is. You go in some of the rooms and it's the funhouse effect because the floor is at like a damn 15-degree pitch or some shit. But I watched the ball 3 or 4 times forcefully roll out of one of the members' hands, one of the guests' hands. She had it on the floor and she had her hand on top of it, like 4 fingers on top of it, and it forcefully pulled out from under her hand and rolled. And
y'all were not in.
Yeah, that's when we had split off into the 2 separate groups.
Yeah,
we were sitting in the hallway.
Yeah, I've got the video of it. I just haven't got it edited. But we actually got 2 cameras showing that from 2 different.
And you
angles.
can, it's interesting. But I saw it with my own eyes, and to see it forcefully move was pretty interesting.
Well, when he was there on an investigation with Connor. I hadn't gone on this when I was out of town. He lays a ball on Sarah's bed, and you can see him physically. That's also, I think, on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
He walks by that ball, so he would have created
and it never moves.
Right?
I walked by it. Connor walked by it.
And all of a sudden, that ball literally...
Well, then we left the room, actually.
Right.
So when we left the room, we turned the lights out. We always go lights out. I found the other ball out in the hallway. When I brought it back in, I walked past that ball, and I stood there, and Connor goes, oh, Lee, and I turned around and look, and that ball is rolling across the bed.
Literally across that bed.
Yeah, and there's no way to explain.
And the bed's not level. I mean, it's not unlevel. Like, it would have had to be...
Well, and also with the blanket, you've got more friction there because it's dimpling down with the comforter and that type of stuff, too. Yeah, so it'd be a little harder for it to roll on its own.
That's a good video. That's a
good video. Another interesting thing happened that me and Lee didn't discuss until the next morning when we had split off into 2 smaller groups. We were in the sitting room that we were talking about at the end of the dark hallway. And I think there were 5 or 6 of us in there.
I think there was about 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5
yeah.
or 6.
And I was standing in the doorway for a while, and we decided to do the Estes method. And I went and sat in the floor next to Kelly, one of the guests that was there. And the activity, like we talked about, kind of followed her around a lot that night. And she decided she wanted to do the Estes method. So we're in the dark. She can't see. She has headphones on. She can't hear. And so the Estes method is you got headphones on, you can't see or hear the questions that are being asked from the other members in the room, and you just say what you hear through the spirit box. And we got some interesting responses with that too. But I looked over at her, and the only light in the room, I'm sitting on the floor. She's about 3 feet away from me in the corner in a chair. And I looked over, and the only light shining on her face was the blue. There's a little blue light on the spirit box, the ITC. And it looked like her face was not her face. And I just chalked it up to, this is the first time I've ever met her tonight. And we hung out in the dark all night. So I really didn't know definitely what her face looked like. But I'm like, when I looked at her face, I remember having this whole conversation in my head about how the light made her look like she had all these wrinkles and she looked like a different person. And also she has dirty blonde hair that is curly, kinky, and it sits out from her head. So it's not flat against her head. And I could not see her hair anymore.
And it's not dark.
No,
hair.
it's dirty blonde. So it's light. And all night I could stand in the doorway, sit on the floor. I could see her head and her hair. But during this time, I could not see. It was like she had a nun habit on. Like around her face was all blacked out, and her face looked way older, probably 30 years older, with all these deep wrinkles and stuff. And I chalked it up, and I had this whole conversation in my head, and I didn't say anything to anybody. I chalked it up to the way the light was shining on her face, creating shadows. So the next morning, we're waiting on breakfast to get done while we're packing all the equipment stuff up, and me and Lee are out on the front porch smoking.
So during this event, I'm actually sitting on the end of the couch. And Eric is in front of me on the floor facing Kelly. And like I said, she's kind of to my 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock. So I'm sitting here and I'm seeing probably the same thing that Eric is seeing. I'm seeing definitely something with her face I can't explain. So I pick up my cell phone and I just start snapping pictures like crazy. So I'm seeing the same kind of disfiguration. I hate to call it that, but that I can't think of nothing else. So the next morning, we're out. We already have breakfast. We're packing up, about to leave. Me and Eric are standing on the front porch with somebody else. I can't remember who was out there, but I brought it up. I said, there's something that I want to ask you about that happened last night. I don't really know how to explain it. I said, when we were in the sitting room doing the Estes method, and at that point, Eric goes, stop right there. And he says what he just told you.
Yeah, and I wanted to get it out so that it wasn't me just agreeing with what Lee had to say, because I knew what he was fixing to say, that he was fixing to talk about that.
And he described to a T what I was seeing.
But when you look at the pictures, now, Lee, I was not in that room. I was in Sarah's room.
You were either
Chad.
in Sarah's room with Chad or you were asleep at that point.
Probably was asleep at that point. But
yeah,
anyway.
she was. Chad was
Yeah,
with
that's
us.
right. Yeah.
That's right, because I went to sleep, yeah. In the pictures he sent me, even though you see the red, it's not, a light picture. I said to her, looks like she's wearing a handkerchief around her head. And she has very blonde, puffy hair, and you could not see that. Even in the pictures. I didn't quite see the wrinkles.
And in the pictures,
you
don't see the wrinkled face look like the old, it looks like an old hag.
It
looked like an old hag. And Kelly doesn't look anything like that.
No.
Yeah, and she doesn't have any deep wrinkles, and she's not that old. I mean, so it was really weird that we saw the same thing, and then somebody else agreed with us and said they saw it as well.
Absolutely. And what amazes me, that picture that we saw in the mirror that we were talking about earlier, she was wearing what I consider to be something draped over her head.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's a correlation, but there's definitely some interesting oddities
But
there.
you know what also is funny? I noticed the picture of Kelly with the thing draped around her head almost blocked her head out, like Lee's face was blocked out in the picture you took.
Well, I also found it interesting that we have that picture where it looks like she has a nun habit on. Like all you can see is the ovalness of her face, like an oval part of her face. You can't see anything else. It's all black. But what I find interesting is that, okay, if that was one-off anomaly, yeah, we saw it with our own eyes. We didn't catch it on camera per se that time. But the fact that the picture with the grayed out David's face grayed out, where it looks like it's changed to somebody else's, and then the picture of Paula at a totally separate time, where it looks like her face is grayed out and changed a little bit, and then we actually see it with our own eyes.
And then I lose my face.
And then you lose your face in a picture, and then we see it with our own eyes. That is one of the craziest things I've ever seen. I've seen lots of things in paranormal. I've seen lots of shit in my own house. I've seen lots of things throughout investigating and just high strangeness. That is one of the most strangest things I've ever seen, and I can't explain it. And the reason I remembered it so vividly is because I probably had a 5-minute conversation in my head about what the hell am I seeing?
One of the pictures that we actually, when I was taking the pictures of her, I could see you. I could see you staring at her, and you were so.
I was.
You were so focused. You know,
because it was the shadows on her face were like, it looked like deep wrinkles. It looked like she had a bigger nose, and it looked like she was like at least 30 years older.
Everything around her was dark, and she was sitting in between two windows, and you could see a security light outside. But
you don't think you can recreate that stuff, and even like with the grayed out picture.
Oh, and she was shivering.
And we never thought we'd get another grayed out picture of David.
Yeah,
but we got one of me. So there's something that is there doing this.
Right.
I think they have a very keen act on manipulating photos. I do believe that.
Well, and they've had so many events there, and they have events every weekend. With telling that story, I'm in disbelief, and I can't say that it's a spirit or that it's just strange. Like Paula's time slip is, you can't prove that anything happened because it's a personal experience. You know,
during that last investigation, we also had something happen that we never had before. Items disappearing and then reappearing somewhere.
Yeah, that's true.
Kelly was carrying around the ghost meter. Now, we got these ghost meters, and like we talked about, we've never had them trigger. We never had them go off until this night. And they were going off consistently with other equipment validating that they're not malfunctioning. So we're down in the dining room. We're taking a little break, kind of letting the house settle.
And that was the only room that we left the lights on. We had the lights on in the dining room because that was kind of our base of operations.
Our central of operation. So Kelly, she lays this ghost meter down on the table where she was having dinner at. And so it's sitting there. And at one point, I do recall, I saw it trigger. I saw it go off on the table. So I took a picture. That's all. So after that, she asked me, she said, "Have you seen my ghost meter?" And I said, "Well, I saw it on table last." She said, "It's not there." So she starts asking everybody, and nobody has seen it. Everybody actually said the same thing. It was on the table. So we called the other group, and I said, "Call Chad and ask him if he's got it in his man purse." It's full of equipment that he's excited. He's got all kinds of equipment going with him.
He was hilarious with
that.
Anyway,
we asked him if he had it, and he said no. It was on the table. Everybody said
and I was talking to her 5 minutes. She was sitting at the table with it in front of her, and I was talking to her across the table with it sitting in front of her 5 minutes before she started looking for it. So I even saw it with my own eyes. We have it in pictures. We have it in still pictures that it was sitting on the table. And then what happened? Where'd she find it?
Well, after we couldn't find it, she grabbed a K2 meter, and she was carrying that around for a little while. So we went on another little 30, 45-minute investigation in part of the hotel. So after that, she says, "All right, I'm going to go to my room for a little bit." So she goes up to her room, which is adjacent to ours, and she walks in, and there's a table to the left. Sitting on that table was that ghost meter.
Yeah.
Just like it had been placed there by somebody, but nobody in our group claimed it, or and I don't believe that they did it. I really don't. I mean, because everybody that we were going with, we work with them. We're very close to these people, and I know what kind of people they are. But it was just weird that it just presented itself back into her room.
Well, and like I said, there's a lot of this stuff that we can't say is evidence per se, because it's a lot of personal experiences like that. We cannot prove that somebody didn't carry it upstairs. Mm-hmm. But for it was sitting there 5 minutes before it disappeared. And, so.
And everybody saw it there.
And even though, that's the first night I met any of them, none of them seem like people that would do something like that just to.
Oh, I don't believe they would. I mean, I work very close with these
people. Well, they were also too into the investigation method that we were using of trying to get evidence. So I just don't see any of them trying to fake something or fake something happening.
I don't think so.
And also, from the time that I saw it and was talking to her and it disappeared 5 minutes later, nobody had left the dining room.
No.
So unless somebody put it in their pocket and then later put it in there, but we weren't even on that hallway for a while. We went out on the porch, and I think we went to the pool house for a while.
Yeah, we did go to the pool house. That's the first time we've been down there. But no, I don't believe it was done intentionally. I really don't. Everybody in our group, it was their first time, and they're just like in fascination as to what's going on.
Yeah, and
I
playing
don't
with all the
think
equipment
I
stuff.
don't
I don't
even
think they
have
felt like they had
intentional
it.
in my brain. Like that was
Right.
that's the last thing on my mind.
Yeah.
I just think we had a really good investigation,
Right.
with a lot of evidence.
Yeah.
And I hope the next time it's the same.
Right.
And better.
We're going to do it again in June.
Yeah, June the 10th,
Yeah.
we're doing another one for first responders for the ones that couldn't go before. And a lot of people have asked me, they said, working with the, fighting death so much on an ambulance day to day, does that correlate anything on a paranormal investigation? What do you think about that? I mean,
I do, definitely.
because you're working so close to death on a daily, and then you go up there and you're facing death, so to speak.
Yeah, I think there is a correlation. I think you become more attuned to it. Because even Paula, who you have said many, many times, like, you don't experience paranormal stuff normally in your life or nothing, but you'll say sometimes when you feel energy change and that type of stuff.
Right.
But you'll also be the first one to say, I'm not in tune with that stuff.
I feel nothing. Yeah, I usually am not one that experiences a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
But you do more than you claim, because you do make comments.
I do. And I think that some, I don't know how to explain this. I think that some people, I think the spirits attract to some people more than others.
Yeah.
And I really do.
Well, we saw that with Kelly for sure, because I think
Exactly.
she was the hub of paranormal activity at Thomas House that night.
And maybe my energy is not that type of energy.
Well, I was talking to a guest, Mike Rickstecker. We were talking about shadow people a couple weeks ago, and his theory is that we all vibrate differently, slightly differently. Everybody's energy vibrates a little bit differently. It's the same reason why you can have a group of people, say 10 people in a room, and an entity can manifest itself in front of you, and all 10 of you will experience it differently.
Right.
And he thinks that it's because everybody vibrates differently, and some people are just on that level to experience more paranormal stuff and see more paranormal stuff. And he akins that to why a lot of people will see, some people will see shadow figures and some people will see full body apparitions. And it's just whatever plane, whatever vibration, whatever frequency you're vibrating on with your energy.
I believe that. And I believe we all have a different aura around us.
Yeah.
And we attract it.
I think it also goes the other way, Lee, though. I think a lot of us, like for me, I've experienced paranormal stuff my entire life without even seeking it out, and that's why I ended up seeking it out. But I think I was attracted to emergency medicine to help me understand death more from the living perspective, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Totally.
So I think it all goes hand in hand. And whether that was, I think that was mostly subconscious, but for me to get into emergency medicine and that type of stuff. But I think it goes hand in hand.
Well, working on an ambulance or anywhere in medical, you're going to have things that you can't explain. Well, when I started doing this right here, somebody told me once, and I cannot remember who, but there's never been a truer statement. They said, once you look for it and you start experiencing it, you're going to start noticing more that's around you. Not that you're going to find more, you're going to notice what's already going on.
Right.
And it is all around us.
You know what
it's just you got to
paranormal
open up
people say?
to it.
If you see things out of the corner of your eye, sometimes it's something you're really seeing, but a lot of people shove it off. Because for me, like I said, I never experienced anything as a kid paranormal. My uncle was big into the Bigfoot, the paranormal. I sought it out because of watching him and just interest. Yeah. Major interest. But I didn't have experiences as a kid. And to see people have experiences, it's really amazing.
The first one I can remember was when I was 8. I woke up out of a dead sleep, and there was a lady in white, I guess, was kind of glowing white, and in my door was open, and I've always slept with my door closed. And I jumped up real quick and flicked the light on because as a kid at 9 years old, it scared the shit out of me.
I was 5 when I had my first experience that I recall.
Well, I may have had them before then. That was the first one. That just made a big imprint on me.
But I think, and I don't know if this is not, were you truly afraid or were you curious?
I think it startled me because I woke up out of a dead sleep and sat up in the bed, and there's somebody standing in the doorway, and it's just me and my parents. So I think then it scared me. But as I got to be a teenager, it's more of a fascination and a curiosity of what happened to me when I was 8, for one. Right. I want to go experience it more to understand it.
Because I think that with me, I was so afraid.
Yeah.
And I think that when you're that deathly afraid, it won't present itself to you. Like, I would watch all those scary movies. I was so interested in it. Like, my biggest scary movie I watched as a kid was Amityville Horror. I was so interested, but inside I was so afraid.
Yeah.
So maybe I don't know. Does that turn the spirits away from you because you're so afraid? I don't know.
I don't know if it turns them away. I just think that
you're not open to it as much, maybe.
I think you're not open. I think you close down a little bit, but also I think for the most part, if we believe that, if you're an asshole in life, you're going to be an asshole in death type deal, like we've talked about before. I think the majority of spirits they were good people, and I don't think if you're scared as a kid and they're around you, I don't think they're going to try to scare you on purpose. I think for the majority of spirits don't try to scare people anyway.
I don't think they do.
They're either trying to get attention, trying to get your attention for some reason, or they're just kind of living their existence around you, and sometimes you see them, sometimes they move shit. Like they're not intentionally trying to do anything. And that's the problem with paranormal TV shows, like I've talked about lots on the show, is everything's demonic and evil and all that shit, and it's not. No. And that's the biggest thing. If you're afraid to go investigate, don't be. Go on one of these public hunts that are around the country at all these different historic places. You will have fun. Yeah.
Well, when I was 5, it scared the shit out of me, and I don't care to tell you.
Yeah. No, it scared me when I was 8 or 9 when it happened.
But I think children are more susceptible to it also.
Yeah, and I've talked a lot about that too. I think we talked about it last time y'all were on about it being taught out of you.
Yeah.
A lot of kids have imaginary friends that maybe aren't imaginary.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But their parents just say, well, you're not seeing what you say you are.
Right.
Like
a lot of kids grow out of it.
Yeah.
It's not all. I think the
becomes
demonic stuff is
thing.
Probably not even 95% of it.
Yeah, and guests that I've had on the show that I trust because they're in this world, like Michelle Belanger.
Right.
I mean, she just wrote the Dictionary of Demons and did all this research, and she's also a psychic medium that I believe in as well. She was very adamant, like in all of her years of going to haunted locations and all of her years of research, because she's written like 30-something books on the occult, she's come into contact with 2 things that she thought was demons, and she has a very defined criteria, which makes a lot of sense too.
But that's realistic.
That's
realistic.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Even though, but she's one of the people that's been on TV that has I've never seen her trump it up. She's never just come in on Kindred Spirits or Paranormal State, which she was on, and said, "Oh, this is a demon." She was never like that, like some of the shows are, and it's just getting ridiculous, and so it just scares people, especially like y'all's main deal is to go do private investigations,
right?
So you're dealing with this a lot.
So this last investigation we went on, it was about 120-year-old Victorian house. It was a beautiful house, completely the house is amazing. But anyway, some of the claims, they actually sounded like it could be something evil or something that pointed toward the demonic. But when we get there, absolutely not. I mean,
there was no bad feeling in that house whatsoever.
And I told Paula, I said, maybe the homeowner pissed him off. I believe it was the homeowner and possibly even a child in there because they were like playing cat and mouse with us.
Yeah.
Our equipment's fine, but we leave the room and all of a sudden everything's triggering. It's almost like somebody's peeking around the corner at us.
Right.
That's the feeling that I had all night long, but nothing bad, nothing evil.
But when you talk about,
and we will go back and do it again, of course, because I do believe in doing at least 2.
Yeah.
But when you talk about evil, though, isn't it noted like in the Vatican, there's like 13 real noted exorcisms out there? Like, there's not a whole...
Yeah, there's very few.
Very few.
Yeah.
I mean, and people act like, they're exorcising people all the time.
Well, there's very few that are sanctioned by the Catholic Church.
Correct.
And have been seen to be true possessions. Mm-hmm. I don't think possession is very common at all, like you're saying.
I don't.
No, it's rare, but
I think that people can maybe have attachments.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people who are doing bad things in their life or on drugs or addicted, I think they wear themselves down to where maybe it's easier for someone to attach to them.
Exactly.
But I don't necessarily think it's a demon.
Yeah.
I think it could just be a nasty spirit that was once a human that was nasty in life, nasty in death, just not a very good person that may be just sucking off that person's energy because they're so low that they're not protecting themselves to begin with.
Correct.
And I believe these spirits can actually manifest around a person, which is kind of, what I possibly could, say happened to, again, at Thomas House, the Great Out Pictures, like with David.
Yeah.
For example, I mean, to me, that's still one of the most intriguing pictures I've ever seen. And I'm not saying that because I took it.
Yeah.
But,
well, the fact that he lives there, he owns the place and has for almost 30 years, they're used to him.
They are.
So it might be, it might, even though the picture you can jump to, well, that looks like an evil face.
It
like
could
it's
be a sense of protection.
Face change. It could be somebody protecting him because they're protective of him. you know, and because he's been there for so long, and they know that he's taking care of the place.
But then you got that other one of Paula here, so they're really.
Yeah,
I was just saying, get your ass out of that peach cobbler because you didn't need it. That's all that was saying.
you're gonna regret that later. Don't eat that.
I'm not eating any more peach cobbler when I go there.
But also talking about feeling energies. Last year we went, the three of us and Connor. We were at Octagon Hall the week of Halloween, and the feel of that place so much different than Thomas House.
Yeah, it is.
The feel of Octagon Hall is just like I wouldn't say negative. But it's one of those things like you feel like it's trying to push you out the door.
It
like,
feels almost
you don't belong
like
here. Go away.
It's a congestion. Like
the air is thick.
It's full.
Yeah. And Thomas House is more. You get the feeling that you're being watched sometimes, and you get the feeling that something is in the room with you sometimes.
But it's a wanted watch.
Yeah, but it's a very calm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like I want to run from this place. Yeah. Which we don't ever run anyway. That's just using that as a phrase. But
I love going to some of these old places because anything can happen. You and I actually went to tour a home.
Yeah.
Down in Franklin, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And
the
we
Lowe's
had an experience just on a guided tour.
Yeah.
So remind me some of it. I mean, I know that we were in
the Lowe's house. The Lowe's house. I heard this is another shared personal experience that Lee had at the Lowe's house. And we talked about this last time as well, but I heard what sounded like footsteps behind me. This is the middle of the day. We have the historian and the director giving us a tour, and I hear footsteps behind me. And at the same time I heard the footsteps, I saw Lee turn around and look over his shoulder. And so then we compared notes afterwards. I'm like, what'd you turn around and look over your shoulder for? He's like, well, I heard somebody walking up behind us. I'm like, I heard the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's interesting.
Earlier than that investigation, we were standing in the dining room, and it was hot, but it was in midsummer, right after a storm, if you remember that right.
Yeah.
So we're standing there, and I felt something tug on my shirt, right about child high, just right above my ass, actually. I mean, to be honest with you, but and I noticed that you noticed something at that point as well.
Yeah. There's lots of interesting things at Lowe's house.
Yeah, absolutely.
I actually, after that, a couple weeks later, I went as a guest for another paranormal team and got to investigate Lowe's house. And I had my cousin, Brian, went with me. And it was his first ever paranormal investigation. And he actually saw a full-body apparition of a woman, an older lady on the other side of the bed at Lowe's house. So that was interesting for him. And I immediately ran in there to make sure it wasn't anybody else that was in the house. And there was nobody else around. But, the Lowe's house was interesting. But I get kind of torn because I've said many times I'm a skeptical believer. And then when I have personal experiences that I can't explain, like at Thomas House, like at the Lowe's house. I mean, the thing with Kelly and her face changing in the dark,
and I love the fact that you saw that. That's just validating. I mean, you just completed my story, what I was going to tell you. And I'm just like, wow, this is crazy.
That is one of the strangest things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The craziest things I've ever seen. Yeah.
Because you said stop.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited, though, about Rosemont. So that's going to be coming up, and that's going to be a place that we've never got to do either.
We're also not just investigating Rosemont. We're going to do the
Pickled treats.
The pickled treats, which I thought was a
pickled treats
store with pickles. And it's not.
So Pickled Treats across the street from Rosemont, the property's owned by Rosemont, and there's an antique shop there called Pickled Treats. And there's a resident ghost there they've named James that apparently doesn't disappoint. So that location, before it was the building it is now, and the antique shop was actually the site of the home of one of the daughters of the Guild family who built Rosemont. So Rosemont is it was never a plantation per se. They were a thoroughbred horse farm.
Yay.
And so they actually had a stallion that produced the line that Secretariat, the famous racehorse, came from. Right. So they're very well known for their thoroughbred horses back then and even nowadays because of the history. And very interesting place. They had over 500 acres at one time, so they owned half of Gallatin.
Yeah, it was bigger than the city of Gallatin is.
Yeah,
right
yeah. So this place is in Gallatin, Tennessee.
And that house, it is put together like no other house I've ever seen.
It is interesting. It is so it's like 3 separate houses, so that are connected by a covered porch, basically. Yeah. So, and also the walls are 2 foot thick with brick. So it's going to be interesting to investigate without having any kind of contamination, even though it's in the middle of the older part of Gallatin.
Right.
I don't think you have to worry about contamination.
No. We were inside. You could hear them. You could not hear that traffic going by. And I even commented to Eli. Yeah. I said, I cannot hear that semi that just come rolling by. I mean, you can't do it. And he pointed out, like you said, the thickness.
Yeah, Eli's the director of Rosemont, and he's the historian and great guy. We went there and toured the place with him, checked it out before the event. They got a great event hall outside too.
I'm looking forward to that place. I'm looking forward to that.
It's gonna be a lot of fun.
So, also, if I can touch on this, on June the 10th, we are having another investigation for first responders. That's EMS. I'm inviting police, fire, nurses, emergency room, anybody that has been a first responder, especially, like I said, through the chaos of 2020, just trying to get it off on the right foot. Everybody that went on our first investigation is going to be going again. They said it was amazing, and they said it's nothing like what you see on television.
No.
They said the reality of it is so much different and so much better.
Yeah.
Than what
it's so much more. It's so much more laid back.
It is.
You got to realize on TV they are investigating for 4 or 5 nights to get the 45-minute show that they put together, and to keep you watching, they're going to put drama in.
Yep.
I mean, that's why we still have reality shows, because they're all drama. And that's what people want to see, for whatever fucking reason. Yeah. I don't like that shit.
I don't like it. I hate it.
But I will say the activity we had in one night, that would have probably done about a good 20-minute show.
Yeah.
On television.
Yeah, but,
which is amazing. It don't sound like a lot, but it's...
In reality, nobody wants to sit and watch a TV show and everyone's just sitting there talking and nothing happening. So
and that's the reality of it. Yeah, it's boring most of the time.
It can be very boring.
We're talking to shit in the dark. Like, if you take that out of context or take it back 50 years ago, they would have put you in a straight.
Why do you think I fall asleep half the time?
Paula slept on every couch at the Thomas house. Half the beds.
That was so great. I can sit here and I know of 6 couches she fell asleep on. 2
very
beds.
Comfortable.
That should tell you how much furniture and how big this place is. 6 different couches. And also
how peaceful it can be.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah. It's a wonderful place. Some wonderful people, wonderful place. And if you're a first responder and nurse, anything like that, come join us June 10th.
June the 10th.
Yeah. And medical personnel. Nurses,
I will be a guest investigator again, and I promise that at first you'll think I'm an ass, like the other group did, because I like to debunk lots of things.
That was true. He did. He likes to debunk.
And I'm very matter of fact about
the whole group turned to him, and you could just see fire coming out of their eyes. But I spoke to him later, and they said, I thought he was going to be an ass, but I understand what he was saying.
But I also said that to Lee before he told me that any of them said that. I'm like, I'm pretty sure they thought I was an asshole to begin with, and then
then they come to me and said, "Boy, he's an ass." Where I
thought
he was going to be.
There's a method to my madness. Yeah, but no, it was a fun night, and we would love to have a huge group come out there. And for the $77 and change, you get to spend the night there. You get 2 meals,
and you get
to investigate.
And we have popcorn.
Yeah, Paula bought a popcorn machine.
We bought a popcorn machine, and we're thinking about
You can use our equipment for this night. As long as you turn it back in and take care of it, I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, and it's a huge place, so we can split off into groups. And, we'd love to have all the first responders come out.
I am going to try to get access to the pool deck itself. That's going to be something new. Supposedly by a 13 or 14-year-old named Edwin who drowned in the pool.
Yeah, back in the 70s.
And his brother was actually a lifeguard. So the pool is no longer in use and it's fenced off, but that's why I want to get access to it.
Yeah. And hopefully by June they'll have there's a church across the street that is apparently supposedly haunted, and if you watched it on Kindred Spirits or on Ghost Hunters, they investigated the church. You've seen that episode of Thomas House, but
it's now falling apart.
It's falling apart, so we couldn't go there. We couldn't go there a couple weeks ago when we went. So maybe they have plans to at least shore it up good enough that people can go in there.
They got an estimate right now to have a guy, he's going to take it down and build it back with the original materials if at all possible. So
I'd like to at least go over there and investigate the grounds around it.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, definitely.
We can do that. Yeah, we can do that. I mean, he'll probably even let us just go right into outside the foyer, just not into the sanctuary.
Right.
Because that's where the floor was caving in the last time that we were in there.
Yeah.
You want to talk about a funhouse effect walking through there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and we definitely don't want to put ourselves or anybody else in danger.
Absolutely not. No.
Being that we are first responders.
Yeah.
Don't want anybody to get hurt.
Well, it's funny that it's going to be a bigger group of us next go round on June 10th because it was insane having the 10 of us, 9 or 10 of us, all being medics there.
And I do. I believe that plays a big part in it, whether it's a private investigation or a public.
Right. And you can look for me, Eric, with the Unseen Paranormal to do more events in the future, and also Medics for Paranormal to do more events in the future, and probably some public ones that I'll be a part of as well, I imagine, as a guest investigator.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're trying to work on some bigger places.
Yeah.
Trying to get into some places. It's hard, but we try.
We've been talking about some secretive places that we want to get in. Don't want to put that out there because we don't want anybody else getting there before us.
Right.
Very, very true. Very, very true. We're trying.
And if we do, it'll be some awesome events and some really big events too.
When you're not TV personalities, it's a lot harder to get in.
Well, maybe we need to talk.
Some of these places will be a first.
Maybe we need to talk to Mustafa and the gang, see if they can
grease little wheels.
See if we can use their celebrity to get us into some of the places. But all right, well, it's been awesome talking to you. I'm glad to have y'all in the studio today.
Thanks for having us back again.
Hanging out. I'm looking forward to April 9th at Rosemont.
Mm-hmm.
And I thank y'all so much for being guest investigators there and helping me out.
Thanks for coming to help us out because we need the help.
Yeah, June 10th. You can find information about the event if you're a first responder, police, fire, EMS, nurse, ER nurse, on Medics, the number 4 Paranormal's Facebook page, and the information will be up on y'all's website as well.
Yes.
I will share the information on all of my social media as well, and you can just contact us about tickets. But like I said, it's $80. You get a room for the night,
all your meals,
and you get to investigate.
Yeah, and the profits, the $77 and change, does go towards the hotel, keeping it up.
Yeah.
And they, it's for a good cause.
Yeah, they've had a little rough year last year as well. So
yeah.
So I'm really glad he's helped them.
All right. Well, thank y'all again for coming on the show today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again for having us.
All right, everybody. As always, stay safe out there. Have a good day. Join us next time for a new episode of The Unseen Paranormal. Until then, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or at our website, unseenparanormalpodcast.com. And don't forget to like, review, rate, and share with all your friends. Thank you to my friend Chris Lips for the awesome theme music. Listen to our theme song and more of his music at chrislipsmusic.com. And remember, some of the scariest things are unseen.